Welcome to the 10th and last video in the series on collaborative world building. I hope you have found the concepts in these videos useful and have been able to apply some of the ideas presented in them to your world building projects. This video discusses how to effectively tell engaging stories in your newly built world. First off, it's important to distinguish between world building and storytelling. World building is a creative project that has narrative elements and, in most cases, is done in the service of building a compelling setting for future storytelling. Storytelling is the act of creating a shapely narrative with characters, setting, and plot. For the world-building storyteller, the trick is finding the balance between telling the audience too much or too little about how the world works during the course of the story. When an audience gets crushed by a steady stream of information about the world that's not tied directly to the events in the narrative, this is what we call info-dumping. The opposite problem happens when a detail or a fact about the world is supposed to resonate with the audience, but they don't understand the significance of the reference because they're not situated well enough in the world. I often call this fantasy or sci-fi word salad. In the first case, it's common for novice writers to say, you need to know this to understand what happens next. In the latter case, they say, just remember this stuff, it'll be important later. Experienced storytellers know that your audience owes you nothing, yet not all audiences are the same. Some science fiction audiences appreciate the specifics of an info dump about the workings of an advanced technology, and other readers have high tolerance for word salad. It's good to assume, though, that most audiences fall somewhere in between. And here's a dark little secret. Almost no one will care about your world. No one cares that you put 100,000 words into it and then went back through 18,000 years of history. At least no one cares yet. This is something that J.R.R. Tolkien himself struggled with, writing his exhaustive history of the elves and humans that nobody wanted to publish, at least not until after Lord of the Rings hit it big. Once people understood the world of Middle-earth, though, they wanted to know more, and all that history was compiled in a fascinating book called the Silmarillion, edited and published by Tolkien's son, Christopher, with help from the author, Guy Gavriel Kay. So what happened? How did Tolkien finally get people interested in his 40-year world-building project? Well, he got readers invested in the characters, namely the hobbit Bilbo Baggins. Everything about the opening of The Hobbit is charming, and readers immediately fell for this small, kind homebody who has his life turned upside down by a traveling wizard and a band of adventuresome dwarves. Bilbo has no experience in the wider world, but the wizard Gandalf knows he has all the qualities to rise to the occasion and make the expedition a success. Readers connect with the sympathetic character and learn about the dangerous wider world along with Bilbo, cheering him on as he defeats trolls, goblins, spiders, and finally, against all odds, a dragon. Along the way, he encounters societies of elves, dwarves, orcs, and humans, all with their unique traits and peculiarities, and readers tend to see Middle-earth in a similar, pragmatic, common-sense way as Bilbo. Fans wanted more of this world, and Tolkien offered up the Silmarillion, which the publisher declined, calling it too obscure. Instead, Tolkien began writing The Lord of the Rings, tying characters and events in the novel back to the fictional history he had spent 4 decades building. The book exploded in popularity and created a demand that Tolkien could never fulfill, and the Silmarillion came out in 1977, 4 years after his death, when publishers were ready to print anything with Tolkien's name on it. There are curious moments in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings where characters make a mention of a person or a place or a thing from Middle-earth's distant past. The trick is that these references happen in the specific context of the narrative and relate to what the characters are doing. 2 moments stick out for me. One is in The Hobbit when Bilbo recovers a blade he named Sting that was forged in the ancient elvish kingdom of Gondolin. The other is when Aragorn tells the hobbits about the Lay of Luthien, a story of the first human and elf intermarriage. At the time of publication, those names would have meant nothing to readers, but in both cases they hint at a long and distant past that informs but doesn't overwhelm the point of the present in the story. If you want more on Gondolin and the Lay of Luthien, you'll have to read the Silmarillion. I absolutely adore it, but it is a bit of an acquired taste. In several videos, I've been talking about thinking about the demographics and seeing your world from a diversity of perspectives, through the eyes of different types of characters, all of whom are socially situated in different ways. So my advice is to find the most compelling characters and then push them out of their comfort zone. Maybe they're forced to travel to a distant place. Maybe the world around them is changing for the worst. Maybe they're working hard to change the future for the better. The only parts of your world building that are relevant are the parts that are relevant for that character's story. If there's a specific part of your world you find most interesting, figure out the character who would have the most interesting problems in that place. Way too often I see stories where the author has created a single character and a plot arc they want to write, and the whole world rolls out like a red carpet before them. They meet the right people at the right time, who give them the right answers and the right equipment, and the hero goes and fulfills the quest as was destined. They're literally born with the world at their feet. It's dull and it's predictable. There's no sense that there are any other options for the character or even other stories to be told. A well-made world should be teeming with storytelling possibilities and a variety of diverse characters who experience the world in different ways, feeling the push and pull of social forces based on a variety of factors, and certain types of advantages and disadvantages based on the combination of their personality and their position in society. When characters start trying to overcome these challenges, they generate a plot that's derived from their decisions and choices they make. Details that are revealed about the world are grounded in those situations characters find themselves in. If you want your audience to learn about all the different aspects of the world you've painstakingly created, create a handful of diverse protagonists and send them off in different directions. Refrain from info dumping and only give information that's immediately relevant in the moment. This could be a serial story, a series of stories set in the same world, different chapters in a novel. Experiment with collaborative storytelling projects too, where different authors write different stories, episodes, or chapters from these different characters' perspectives. Well, that's it for this 10-part video series. I hope to make more videos on specific world building topics in the future. If you have ideas for topics you'd like me to cover, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tour of the collaborative world building process I describe in Collaborative Worldbuilding for Writers and Gamers, and if it's been helpful, consider picking up a copy of the book and the card deck. Thanks for watching and happy world building.